A 1980s model Benford TS-25 radial swing. You can see on the tag there, radial swing concrete buggy. This hopper actually turns manually. You got to pull this lever here. It unlocks it, and then you can actually turn the buggy to dump 90 degrees either side. So I saw this thing on Marketplace and I had to have it. It was really beat up. It barely moved, had no brakes, no clutch. Put a whole new clutch in and throwout bearing. That took forever to find. Learned a lot about it. It's starting to rain, so let me get my stuff out of here so it doesn't float. Batteries in there, hydraulic fluid. I sanded and painted everything except obviously in the dump buggy and the drive shaft. I just got lazy on the drive shaft, and I got one more spot in the front of the buggy I got to do, but it was that yellow. I'll try to find a picture and stick it in here for you. I still got to do the tires, but I got to pressure wash them first. So it's rear wheel steer, manual brakes. There's no hydraulic fluid or anything. It's just manual brakes. This is a brake pedal. This is a gas. And that over there is a clutch. It's a 3-speed M40 gearbox. And it is a Lister single-cylinder diesel engine. Couldn't figure out what this is because I never knew what Listers were. This is a decompression. So when it's cold, it's hard to start. You turn this, and it makes a hole basically in the cylinder, opens up a valve, so you don't have maximum compression. It's very loud, as you could hear, because it is single cylinder, and I do believe there's a large centrifugal weight in the bell housing there, because the clutch is out here and the throwout bearing are all out here. That's the throwout arm right there. The throwout bearing's in there, in that bell housing. Because the gearbox is only this little piece here. So that's a large centrifugal weight right there, right inside that bell housing, cast iron bell housing. And when you crank this thing over, you feel it struggles. And once it goes, it's a very low RPM engine. I don't know anything about the engines, but I know this thing starts winter, ice cold, doesn't matter. Summer, doesn't matter. It starts. As long as you have a battery, it starts. And actually, if you don't have a battery, it has this little handy dandy thing, like old Model T. I have to put this plate back on. But stick this in here, and you can manually crank this engine over. Right here. Hey, so you can manually crank that thing over. So it has a one-way slip, so you don't lose your hand, I assume. I haven't used it because my electric start works. But a lot of people say on the British websites and the forums that they lose that handle, or it's a manual start only and they don't have electric start. This one has both. So I'm still in the process of cleaning it up, making it mine. Put a new seat on it. An old Murray seat I got on Marketplace, and I even made an idiot diagram, so that way you know. Here's your shifter. This is your dump, which is just a hydraulic 2-way valve, open and gravity down. So you got to hold it and gravity comes down. That's why it goes down slow. And this is a parking brake. Right now I have the parking brake on. I try not to keep the parking brake on when it's parked for a while, so I put wheel chock on it. Then I stick it in gear, and then I just take the brake off. So as long as it's in gear, it's not going to roll, and especially if you wheel chock it. It drives like a forklift, rear wheel steer, so it is kind of interesting. Fun to drive, different, very slow, in first gear. Second gear is okay, except there's no torque, so you're not going up any hills. And then the other interesting thing is to start this thing. See the X? All right, that's the oil fill. But next to it, that little white switch that you saw me reach in there to touch, right here, this thing, that's your fuel shut off. So right now, I can start it because I pushed it down, but to shut it off, you gotta shut the fuel off. So first thing you do is turn the fuel on, then you can use a key that's over here to start it. And that's just a starter. Then you could just turn the switch back off because then it just runs as long as the fuel switch is on. When you're ready to shut it off, you make sure the key is off. Then you reach your hand in here and you just turn that little switch. Let me see if I can get a better view of it. Then you turn that little switch. Here we go. There it is. Let's see. There it is. So that little switch there, that's the off position. I painted it white so I could see it. As you can see, I just put a coat of paint just to make it look halfway decent for yard work. But to start it, you push your thumb in on that little spring tab, turn that dial down, turn that switch down, that turns the fuel on, then you can turn the key and it starts. But to shut it off, you have to turn the key off, and then you just turn that counterclockwise, and it pops up to where it is right there, and it shuts the fuel off, and then it stops running. So here's the air filter. So it's kind of hard to get in there when you're not shutting it off in a hurry. Let me put it that way, because you actually have to bend your arm down and around this engine cover. That's the fuel tank. It is diesel fuel. I think I mentioned that 100 times, plus I think you can see that. So I wish the hopper dumped to a steeper angle, but it seems to be dumping all right. Once the hydraulics are warm, it goes back down a lot easier. But when the hydraulics are cold, it takes a long time for that buggy, the bed, to come back down, because it's so balanced basically on the pivot point, on the pivot points right there. Both hydraulic cylinders, when I got it, had blow by to the point where you couldn't even use it, because you get shot with 2 streams of hydraulic fluid. There's 2 cylinders. That's the spot I still got to paint, and I got to paint in here. But the cylinders in there and in there, and they have weep holes because they're single action cylinders, so they have air holes in the top. And when the hydraulic fluid, you use it, it leaked into the air side, and so when it compressed it, it went out the holes, and you had 2 streams of hydraulic fluid shooting past you at however many psi, and it would go far. It would go 30-40 feet if it didn't hit you. So, but yeah, that's what it used to look like. It was all this bright construction yellow with concrete all over it. I got as much concrete out here off as possible with an air chisel, and that's it. There's a lifting point there, or a tie down point, whatever you want to use it for. And it took me forever, but I did find a serial number. So I do have to find out exactly what year it is. But it's a cool little tool. So I'll keep it this season, have some fun with it, bring it to a couple job sites, haul some dirt around with it, and then I'll probably end up getting rid of it. So I have 2 spare tires and rims, 1 front and 1 back. So that's a bonus. But yeah, so there's my little toy. Give you a little run around. And there's a serial number right there, so I don't forget where it is. I painted it white. But yeah, there's a little toy. I'm sure you'll be seeing it on a few more videos. So it's like I said, it's a Benford TS-25.